Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the witnesses for being here today. We truly appreciate it. I'd like to start by sharing a story from one of my constituents. It's a story from Mike Kelly, who is a fifth-generation farmer from Monona County, Iowa. And he wrote me in January to tell me about how some of the very productive farm ground that he cash rents was outbid by conservation programs. And in one instance, he was outbid by over $100 per acre by the government. The same thing happened to one of his sons in 2016, who lost 80 acres of land to a pollinator program where he had recently installed a center pivot irrigation system. To quote from his letter, "Never in my 30-plus years of farming did I feel the government was going to be a threat to me and my young son's farm operation." And, Mr. Chair, I would like to submit his letter for the record. I have heard similar stories from across Iowa about CRP outbidding cash rents on productive farm ground, and it greatly concerns me and many others in the state of Iowa. We have a lot of producers who are participating in important voluntary conservation efforts targeted at marginal lands to protect soil health and water quality, but it appears the current structure of some of these programs has misaligned incentives. For Ms. Jones and Mr. Bramlett, please, in your opinion, is idling whole farms through CRP the best use of taxpayer dollars in a tight budget climate, or would we be better served focusing those dollars on marginal lands that could have the biggest bang for our taxpayers' bucks through the working lands programs? And Ms. Jones, if you would start, please.
Thank you for the question. We offer a range of opportunities to our producers. Through our general sign-up, we allow it to be a competitive process where they come in and they are scored on their environmental benefits. We generally see larger tracts of land, more whole fields in that regard. But we also have our continuous practices, which are smaller. They are highly incentivized in order to make the opportunity there for the farmer to invest and put those conservation practices in place. We support both sides of conservation in order to make it work for the farmers.
Okay, thank you for your answer. Mr. Bramlett.
Thank you, Senator Ernst. And from the NRCS perspective, we are really aggressively pursue all kind of conservation activities we can do on working lands. So EQIP, CSP, basically do working lands. We even have an easement component called Agricultural Land Easement Program, which allows those operations to stay in a working land status. With respect to the CRP, we basically work within the authorities that are offered by the committee and stand ready to help with our CTA program, offer conservation planning process support to the Farm Service Agency, however those authorities are delivered.
Well, I appreciate that. The concern with the CRP program is that we are seeing more and more acres of highly productive land that is farmable and not a threat to really any erosion. The original intent of the CRP program was to protect those marginal lands, and we see more and more producers, especially those that are maybe older, wanting to retire, taking those acres out of production, and that's a threat to some of our younger farmers or those that are wanting to engage in farming activities. I do think there are ways to fix the program, and we need to focus on those marginal lands rather than highly productive acres. Ms. Jones, the average age of a farmer in the U.S. today is 58. 58, that's a young farmer today. And I've heard from many young and beginning farmers who are trying to access farmland but are being outcompeted by CRP. Are you hearing this from other young producers, and if so, where?
Thank you for the question. We have several opportunities. One is our Transition Incentives Payments Program, where we allow our retiring landowners that have CRP contracts to transition to a new beginning farmer and rancher in return for 2 years of annual rental payments. That allows the new and beginning farmer to have access to that land for production or other sustainable agricultural uses.
So are you hearing from other states, or is Iowa the only state that is seeing this issue with CRP?
I think that we often hear about new and beginning farmers and the opportunities that they want. You know, specifics, we have a coordinator at Farm Service Agency that specifically works with new and beginning farmers and ranchers throughout all of our programs, and I'd be happy to look into that and get more information to you.
I would appreciate that very much. I do think we have an issue out there. Thank you very much to our witnesses. Thank you, Mr. Chair.